Hello, so today we're going to be going over patch 14.12. So patch 14.12 is the upcoming patch for this Wednesday for TFT, and it should be quite small from what I've seen. I really want to read it. I kind of skimmed it because there was a couple like big offenders that I was looking to see if they got hit, and they didn't. So I'm not sure if I'm super excited about this patch, but maybe I misread and they did some other changes that I didn't really look at. Before we get started, because this is like the top of the week kind of guide that I would be doing, I just want to say, first of all, thank you for all the subscribers once again. I like to always say that because, you know, the number keeps going up. We have stagnated a lot. This is what I was saying. Like, this usually happens like in a set, right? Like a lot of times it's like, oh, it's the beginning of the set, oh, it's the middle of the set, or oh, it's the end of the set, right? But I still love all the support all the same. If you do watch my content and you watch like one or two of my videos, you know, even if you don't watch all my videos, the subscriber number really helps me as a small creator. So by all means, please, you know, do the thing. It's free, you know, and you get like little perks, like, you know, I don't know. Anyways, the other thing is I decided this time that instead of just like saying the guide, I was going to ask like in a little poll. So over here, basically like what people wanted was more of like a general set guide for the upcoming guide. I know all the for everybody that voted, thank you. In terms of all the votes, I'll probably do like in order of how many votes everything got. Based on this right here, I'll do like the other guides. So like the next guide that I'll do after doing a general set guide with like talking about portals, encounters, and Exalted and all of that stuff will be the other stuff. It feels like a little bit late to do a general set guide. The set's really winding down right now. But at the same time, maybe this is like grinding season. I know it is for like a lot of really like players that are trying to get their final rank. They usually like come back towards the end of the set when everything kind of like evens out the playing field and then goes for it. I don't have the exact slides, so I'm just watching through Mortdog's video. So Mortdog is dev for TFT, and he does these patch rundowns where he basically talks about like upcoming patch notes before the patch notes are actually released. So make sure to like and subscribe Mortdog's content so that you can basically support Mortdog as well. And you can also watch his perspective when he talks about stuff. But I'll basically skip around these and just go over the slides and give you my opinion, because some of you that watch my channel, you kind of value or want to hear what I have to say. So we're going to go through it like that. The first thing that's changing is system mechanics. So they're making the shop odds on level 7. So what this means is 1 cost, 2 cost, 3 cost, 4 cost, 5 cost. They are reverting the change from earlier in the patch. So early in the patch, 3 costs were really fucking annoying. And it was like fucking miserable. That was the 2-week period of 3 costs that I decided to quit the set. I literally did not play for 2 weeks. I closed TFT and I did not open it for 2 weeks. Because it was just so miserable. I hated it. And a lot of people, some people liked it, but most people hated it. Now, because 4 costs are balanced and everything's kind of shifted, there's not many rerolls, not many 3 costs, so they're reverting that change from earlier because it turned out that like after like doing a lot of other shuffling with the set, they decided that, you know, they can put it back to the way it was at the start and kind of bring back the option of doing some of those 3 cost rerolls. I don't really like this. I kind of like this system change where you just fuck the 3 costs, right? Like it was enough for me in the set, right? Like if it turns back into what it was during that patch where like everybody was rerolling, I'm quitting, you know. But I understand that like for some people that's something that's really important and really big for them. So, you know, it's not my cup of tea, but it might be your cup of tea. If you're a 3 cost reroll enjoyer and you want the meta to be all 3 cost rerolls, maybe that happens, but we don't know for sure. The main reason why metas sometimes change drastically with changes like these, it might not actually. Also, this is just a warning. What I'm saying might be completely false and it doesn't actually change and nothing. This is a non-zero change. But usually when you change system mechanics like this, like last time it completely axed 3 costs, right? And the reason that sometimes it changes around like what you play is because it's just like TFT is kind of like poker in a way, right? Like if you've ever played a poker game, and you're somebody who knows how to play poker, like I kind of know like more than the average person with poker, right? If you're just playing with people and all they're doing is like every turn they're like tee-hee, I'm gonna all in, they won't know what I'm doing, right? Then you have to change the way you play poker. You can't play like value bets, you can't like bet to represent a hand, you can't like do these like higher level things that you want to do because like the whole lobby's kind of like Yahoo, right? It's similar to reroll, not in the same sense of like skill disparity, but what I mean is like if everybody's rerolling in your lobby, you're kind of incentivized to also reroll. You kind of have to follow the same strategy that everybody else is doing, because if you try and be the one person doing a different strategy a lot of the times, then it messes things up. Like TFT is really nice when it's balanced, if there's multiple strategies. Like right now, there isn't that many different strategies besides like lobbies where there's hero augments and like a couple rerolls. Typically it's just like playing around 4 costs or playing around fast 9, and that's not super fun to everybody. To me, I don't really care because that's like my favorite play style. So if everybody's playing 4 costs, I'm incentivized to play 4 costs and it feels nice. But that's what sometimes happens, right? If you're like the one 4 cost player in a lobby of rerollers, all the rerollers are going to spike early, they're all going to help each other hit, and they're all going to like make it into such a problem where you'll just lose all your HP before you even get to a stabilized point of playing around your 4 costs. And that's when it sucks, right? And that's what happened earlier in this set when everybody's just playing rerolls because the 4 costs weren't strong enough and you just rerolled and everybody just fucking rerolled, right? But we'll see what happens. I don't know if there's going to be any new comps. There doesn't seem to be that many 3 cost comps, so, you know, maybe it's okay. Let's go to traits now. It's just something to be weary of, right? The other thing they're doing also is that, one more thing. This shop odds indirectly nerfs 2 cost rerolls. A lot of times with 2 cost rerolls, you just level to 7, right? Even though 2 cost rerolls you roll on 6, a lot of times it was just better off rolling on 7 odds because it was 33% chance, right? It was 40% chance on level 6 for a 2 cost. So usually you would just sack the 7%, go to level 7 because you have a better chance of hitting like higher quality units, especially like you have like a small percentage chance of hitting a 5 cost, and you have a 10% chance of hitting the 4 cost for those reroll comps. So it just made more sense to just like go to level 7. But now, because they're reverting the change, it might turn back into like something you would have to do in other sets and like a little bit earlier is you'd have to like hybrid. Like you'd have to like, okay, do I have like at least this many copies of a unit? Okay, I should roll a little bit on 6 here in this spot. It makes it a lot more difficult, which is fine, but it just might indirectly nerf those comps, make them a little bit harder to stabilize because you can't just go to 7 and hope you hit on 7 as easily. Traits. So Duelist, they're changing it so that it gets 1% less attack speed per stack. I don't even know if that's noticeable. Like, is this a big change? Like 10 to 9 and 14 to 13, but then 8 Duelist isn't changed? Like, I don't know if that's enough, but like, you know, let's see if they do other changes. Alone, I don't think that really changed anything with Duelist. I'm gonna be honest, right? I think like alone, it's fine, right? Like Duelist won't really get affected, but if there's other changes to Duelist as well, then potentially this can like stockpile, right? Like death by 1,000 paper cuts. Exalted, they're making 5 Exalted 2 XP. I don't know if this is good or not. I think it's like kind of okay, right? The thing is, like 5 Exalted is really hard to play, and you usually can only fit it in late game. There's very few times you can play it early game, and if you can play it early game, it becomes like a very situational thing. So I don't know how much of an effect this will have. I don't know if it's going to make 5 Exalted being like a good thing to play instantly, but 2 XP around is really, really strong. If there's like a low cost Exalted, like you know that Exalted where it's all 1 costs, that might be like a fast 9, like you just play all of those and reroll some of them, and then try and go like fast 9 or something, right? Like there's some awkward situations that might arise in particular Exalteds, right? This isn't like an overarching, like it's not like this makes Exalted better as a trait. It's more so like there's very situational Exalteds that might make the lobbies really fucked. And that I don't necessarily think is good, but I don't know. I don't actually know what will happen, right? If you don't know, the sets of Exalted, so when Exalted has those units you can put in that like they change each game. The Exalteds are the same for everybody in that particular game. So if like you have the Exalted where it's all 1 cost, everybody has that Exalted. And Exalted is not random. There's like 80 or so options that it can pick from. So those 80 or so options are available online. And some people, like, you know, even myself, like I look through them and I plan around different Exalteds, like what comps you can play. So it's not like it's just like a random group of 5 units. You can actually, there's actually set 1. So there's like, you know, a 1 out of 80 chance this one appears, etc. So you might have to just look through that and see if there's like, if there's 5 Exalteds, they're all less than 4 cost, which there's a couple of them that are like that. I think that's the one that this one affects the most, because then you're incentivized to play all those weaker units and just go, I don't know. Anyways, Reapers, Reaper bleed duration from 3 to 2 seconds. I don't know what if this is a nerf or a buff. He was talking about it like it was a buff. I don't know if it's just a typo in the thing, but I think it's a buff. I don't actually understand what it is, but I think Reapers are getting buffed, and like it seems like if it's like less second, I think what it is that it makes the bleed effect like apply faster. Like the duration is lower, but the damage is just like done in the same amount of time or something like that. I don't actually know. But just be aware, Reaper might get small buff. Sniper, they're decreasing the damage by 1% per hex here and here. Like I said before, it's the same as like Duelist. 1% doesn't seem like that much. It really, really doesn't. But if there's other changes as well, then it might stockpile and like, you know, obviously like make it a big problem. For 6 Sniper, it is 2%. But I don't know if that's like in my head, I'm thinking about every Duelist game I played and every like fucking Sniper game I played, and it's like it's very rare that it's like, oh, that guy lived with like 1 HP or that guy lived with like 1 damage, right? It's never like a 1% diff. It's usually like you get fucking rolled over, like you get run over by them. So I don't know why such a small change. Like they were saying that like they just tried 2%, like they tried this to 16 and it was like really bad. So like maybe I'm like misinterpreting how the damage scales relative. Like 1% might be a lot after you apply all of the modifiers and the items and all of those things in the game. So I might just be misunderstanding it, but it doesn't seem like a lot. Like I don't think, what I mean to say is like no matter what, I don't think like 4 Sniper Ashline that you might know and love is unplayable, right? And Trick Shot, they made it that 2 Trick Shot is a little bit stronger. I think this helps a lot. I think the biggest problem with Kaisa is that like you have to play 4 Trick Shot, you have to hit Xayah, and it feels very like a high roll comp. But having like a little bit more stable on 2 Trick Shot, it makes it so that you can play some of those other comps that are a little bit worse sometimes, right? So for example, like 7 Ink Shadow, that's like a really strong variation of Kaisa, but the Kaisa doesn't do that much damage, right? So you really have to rely on like upgrading everybody else and having Udyr and stuff, and this might like help stabilize that, for example. It's things like that that it helps with, where you're not necessarily playing 4 Trick Shot. You know, maybe. We'll see. Because Kaisa does good in some of those situations already, right? So it's not like out of the blue that she'll just be good now in those spots. They're buffing Sivir, they're buffing so that Sivir 3 is a thing now, right? Before, like, her duration for her spells, so this is, like, the attack speed buff or whatever, I'm pretty sure. Now it's, like, it applies more time at higher levels. I don't like buffing 1 cost, because I think when you start to make the rerolls happen at lower cost units, it kind of ruins the game for me. I kind of like it right now that there's, like, like, my ideal balance is, like, one 1 cost reroll, 2 cost rerolls, and like 1 or 2 3 cost rerolls, and that's it, right? Like I don't want all the units to be rerollable. I want there to be like a dominant comp, like you know, it's like in set 10 for example, like the 3 cost rerolls when it was like Riven and Yone and actually set I don't want to talk about set 10. There's too many rerolls in there. I'm gonna get tilted and I'm gonna say too much. They're buffing a lot of the 2 cost champions. Now, I don't understand this. It boggles my mind so much because they're doing that thing. And Mortdog, I think in the video, this was the part that I watched because I was like, I want to hear his explanation for this. And he was like, don't worry, these are all small changes. It's not going to turn into set 10 where like by the end of the set, the only strategy was to play 2 cost reroll, because that's what happened in the last set, right? Towards the end of the set, they started buffing all the 2 costs because they're like, hey, it's time to play rerolls. And then like what happened is like everybody, all they did was just play reroll, and it was so fucking miserable. And I stopped playing that. Like as soon what happened in set 10 was they buffed all the 2 costs, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna not play anymore, and I'm just gonna play set 11 PBE, like the set 11 beta. You can even watch on my YouTube channel. There's a point where I just played Riven. I played like all rerolls for a week, and then immediately after it's like Fenrir reacts to set 11. I just fucking gave up. I was like, I'm so fucking done with this shit. And I don't want that to happen here. Look at like this Lux. Like, I love Lux. Don't get me wrong. Lux is my favorite unit in the game, right? But like, holy fuck. Like, if you haven't played Lux already, I literally just posted a video where I had a Lux 2 and I carried Lux 2 to the end of the game and got a top 4. Like, Lux is already strong as shit. Like, why are we buffing Lux? Like, you know, Lux is fine. She's in a good spot. She's like rerollable in certain spots. You can get a top 4, not necessarily a first, but if you high roll, you can get a first, right? Some contingencies, that's fine. That's fine. Like, why are we making oh, because this is a lot. Like Arcanist scale as well. Like, you're buffing spell damage by a lot on an Arcanist that, like, she's gonna one-shot. She might, like, she already one-shots things. This is gonna make it, like, really, like, I don't know about this one. They keep buffing Aatrox. At one point, Aatrox is gonna be a fucking nuisance. Now, for those of you that don't know, right, I'm gonna circle these two units, right? What do these two units have in common? They're both bruisers, right? Now, I haven't done a video on it because I haven't had a spot for it. But if you don't know, like, there's some people that know about this. Like, one of the very niche lines that you can play, it's similar to Kabuko reroll, right? You know when you have Kabuko Lucky Paws, you're supposed to play 8 Bruiser, right? Or 6 Bruiser, right? You play, like, those things, right? And what you do is you just you reroll all the bruisers, and like on level 8 you just play like 8 bruiser. On level 9 you either play 8 bruiser, on level 8 you play 6 bruiser and Sage, or 6 bruiser and Irelia and Story Weaver. You just play some board like that, right? Recently they buffed Riven and Aatrox. When you have like augments like those bruiser augments, so one example is Well Fed and the other one is Bruiser +1, right? When you have Well Fed or Bruiser +1, you can actually just play towards a full Bruiser line, and basically what you go for is you go for 3-star Aatrox, 3-star Riven, 3-star Tom Kench, and Silas, and that's like your board, right? It's very similar. It looks very similar to like the Kabuko hero augment board, but basically instead of like getting a Kabuko, you just 3-star everybody else. You 3-star Riven, you 3-star Aatrox, right? Some people might know that as like Riven reroll. That's a very niche line, but Riven reroll, like some people play it with like Story Weaver. It's better just to play it with like Vertical Bruiser, right? That line works. People can get first with it. It's very strong. It just requires an augment, right? Because it's not quite strong enough on its own, because it doesn't stabilize as hard without the augment, right? That being said, buffing 2 bruisers that are like the cornerstone of that comp is gonna make that comp really strong. It's already a comp where if somebody has Well Fed and you see that they're rerolling bruiser, I'm looking at the board, I'm like, they might just go first. Like if they, like, especially if they have Bruiser +1, like if you see somebody in the lobby, like I've played multiple times around Bruiser +1, I have videos on it. I didn't do the reroll variation, I just played around Silas and Morgana carry, and I think one of them I got a first and the other one I got like a second. You know what I mean? Like, it's very fucking strong, a Bruiser +1. If we're buffing these Bruisers, right, I know that it indirectly helps, like, other lines, but it makes, like, this particular line, like, I expect this to be, like, a meta comp now, right? Like, these are substantial, right? Like, Riven getting buffs twice in a row, Aatrox getting buffs twice in a row. It's, like, stuff like that where it's, like, I don't understand why. Because, like, maybe I think to, like, the general player, maybe they don't know about these lines. And yes, it was a line that needed like either a Bruiser +1 or an augment, so buffing them might make it so you don't need the augments in order to play the line. But it's fine the way it was, right? Like, why do we have to bring it to the meta? Because now, if they're strong enough to play it on its own, then if somebody hits like Well Fed, then all of a sudden Well Fed is now the new broken hero augment, right? If somebody hits Well Fed, it's like GG, I'm going first, right? That's what happens when you buff these units out, like, you know, like if there's an augment that supports them that makes them already really strong, and then you buff them, it makes dilemmas, right? And that's what happened with like Keepers, for example, right? Duelist became really strong, and then Keepers, which isn't that strong on other comps, is really strong on fucking Duelist, and now they don't know what to do with Keepers, and now Keepers, if you see Keepers, it's like GG, I win because I have Duelist, right? It's like the same thing like that. Anyways, rant over. That's like my take on it. Maybe these don't actually matter. These look like a lot though. Like 10% at every level, and another 10 on everything with third cast and spell. And this guy getting like 15 on every single one. It seems like a lot, like if you end up rerolling these two guys. Anyways, also this also helps like other reroll boards like Janna and Shen, and like those ones that always like, there's a lot of boards that just play Riven and Aatrox anyways. Whatever. Janna is already strong as well. Like Janna reroll is a thing situationally. I think it's a lot more niche because it's very like the problem with Janna reroll is that it caps out really high. Like you can go first with it, but you need to get to like level 9 because you need like a Rakan, right? Like this comp with a Rakan is what really sells it, right? Enter the Dragon is kind of mid, right? Like there's different, Dragon Lord Emblem is kind of mid unless you can hit like unless you hit like a Rakan carry like at the end, right? If you get like a Rakan 2, it's like a guaranteed first, right? So that's why these buffs don't bother me that much, because I don't think it's gonna make Janna, like Janna will still have the problem of needing to get to those high levels, and now they even nerfed the ability to roll for the 2 cost on level 7, so it's just like really awkward. And then Senna buffs again as well. I don't know, I think Senna Shen, Senna Gnar might be back, we'll see. Anyways, I don't agree with all those changes. They're buffing 3 cost Soraka, right? I think Soraka reroll was already really strong, right? Like a lot of times you would play Soraka in place of some units if you don't hit the other ones. Like for example, if you're going for like Zoe reroll, sometimes you hit Soraka instead of Zoe, and you can itemize Soraka and play for placements, and it's very strong. And then Yone buffs, they're giving him an attack speed buff. I don't know. I think Yone reroll isn't that strong because I think in general like the Reapers just don't do as much as some of the other comps. But the thing with the Reaper comps is that like it really depends on the meta, right? Like the Reapers are very good at like backline access, right? Doing some crazy shit, right? A lot of times it's like right now like the matchups are really bad for Reapers. Like Yone's really good into something like Lilia or snipers, right? Because if you can like kill the Ashe or kill the Lilia before she like starts like ramping up damage, then it's good. But against like most of the other comps, it's kind of like shit, right? Because like Syndra, you could just pair with Set and then recover the damage, right? And then like this matchup's really fine for them, right? So that's why it kind of fell off. So I don't know if buffing is like the right idea, but we'll see what happens. And Soraka, yeah, Soraka 3, these are pretty big changes. 50% increase in damage. Like I was talking like 10% was a big deal, right? I think Soraka reroll is going to be a thing. Soraka was already like low key kind of broken. Annie buffs, yeah, Annie they kind of over nerfed a little bit and she was a little bit shittier. Kayn buffs, right? That's like the Reaper changes, right? Kayn might become a little bit more dominant. I've already played towards Kayn this patch, right? Even I've played towards Reaper this patch, and it's firstable, which means that it's strong. It's just situational, so giving these buffs makes it a lot more stable. So I think Kayn might come back to the meta. Galio was a little bit weak. I think Galio having his cast early, that's his taunt. I think that's pretty good, right? Galio is a little bit of like a weaker tank, just the way things worked out, and Nautilus a little bit less HP. I think that's fine. I think this doesn't seem like a substantial difference, but Nautilus was one of the best tanks in the game. If you played, like most people were just trying to play Nautilus all the time, so I think that's fine. These changes I don't really care too much about because I think Kayn needed a little bit of something because he got really axed a little bit ago, and Annie also needed a little bit of something, and so did Galio. Like this seems very in touch with what's happening right now, and it doesn't seem like it affects that much. It just kind of makes everything a little bit okay. But that being said, with the Reaper changes, maybe Kayn becomes broken and 4 Reaper is another line. Another change that I like kind of is Hui. Hui kind of, you could play around Hui a lot, and he's pretty good. And he's good situationally, but a lot of people have been calling Hui like one of the worst 5 costs. He doesn't really fit into many boards unless you're playing Lilia. And the problem is, like, you never really want to play Hui instead of Lilia because... you never want to play Hui instead of Morgana with Lilia because Morgana's just better. She just did more damage, she did more cash, she did more utility. So buffing Hui a little bit is pretty okay. Because Hui used to be the most broken unit in the game by far. And now you know, it's nice to see like something change a little bit so that he can maybe be played a little bit more. That like this is fine. That makes sense. 45% loot chance on Lissandra. Lissandra as well got axed really hard, so I think she needed something. I think making the loot chance a little bit higher is pretty good. I would have preferred damage on Lissandra though. I don't really care about the loot. Because the loot's good if you scale early. The problem is like late game if you play a Lissandra, right? Like I don't really care about this because like the loot is great and it's really, really strong, and it can win you the game, right? Especially if you have like a component and then you get a completed item off Lissandra. It's like, it's really fucking good. But like, the thing that I hate about Lissandra is that now that she doesn't have the stun, she kind of does nothing. She teapots somebody, they pop out of the teapot, and then she just fucking dies, right? I would have loved it if Lissandra got like a damage buff, or like an Arcanist scaling buff, like she scaled off AP a little bit harder. So that if you played her in like an Arcanist line, or if you played her as a specific like, this Lissandra is gonna be a carry, then it would like work out, right? Like, you know, make her scaling on 2-star or 3-star Lissandra, not 3-star because that's not gonna happen, but you know what I mean? Like, make it so that like, if you're not playing her just like as a random utility unit to get loot, but if you're playing her as like a full-on carry, then she does more damage, right? I think that would have been cool to see, but you know, I think that's not happening. They're buffing Lichbane. Lichbane is really good on Kindred, so this just pay attention, right? You can put Lichbane on Kindred. Suspicious Trenchcoat, they're cutting the HP by like a lot, which is good. That thing was really broken. I'm not sure if the HP really is going to change its placement, but it's definitely going to be worse. It won't be the best Ornn artifact is what I'm thinking. Aegis now plays VFX during planning phases of affected hex. So I think what they're going to do is they're just going to show what hexes it affects. I kind of know what it affects because, like, so if you don't know the pattern, of how it works, Aegis, then this is like a good quality of life, especially for newer players. I like that. Spite now stacks, and VFX is better. And because it stacks, they removed this, and the duration is 15 seconds. I don't know. I never took Spite. I thought it was always shit. So like, you know, I can't speak to this if it's gonna be broken. You'll have to check the stats after if it goes up by a lot. Crest of Cinders. Oh, this is the one that they this is Radiant red buff. They just giga nerfed it last patch because it was bugged, and they removed the bug, so now it just did a bunch of less damage. So now they're just increasing the damage and duration. So this might be really strong. And the same with Mormorello Con. Both of these were nerfed last patch because they basically was a bug that they just fixed. So that makes sense. I'm okay with that. Augments. Risky moves giving more gold. I never take risky moves. I don't like it. I hate just giving away HP for free. It seems very, very fucking troll, especially when it's like early game. I don't like it. Boiling Point, they're giving a Lux Animumu. Okay, sure, that's fine. Built diff, more attack speed on everybody. I think that's okay as well. But it's also a little bit scary. But this is built diff 2, not built diff 3. So maybe built diff 3 is fine. Combat Caster, they're reducing the shield to 4 seconds. Combat Casters was one of the best performing gold augments, and it was really strong on a lot of different comps. I'm curious to see now if it's going to be like not an insta pick. Like Combat Caster, you pretty much always took it. So this getting nerfed is maybe a big deal. Crown Guarded, I don't know if this actually matters that much. It seems really good. I like kind of like Crown Guarded on certain comps. The problem with Crown Guarded is if you make the effect larger, doesn't the shield not break? Like the whole point of Crown Guard is that it gives you a health shield, and then when the health shield expires, it gives you AP, right? So now, does this mean that you'll get more AP? Does this mean you'll get more shield, or does it mean you'll get both? Because the problem is with some comps, like Crown Guarded into like a Lilia comp is really bad, because you just have like this huge health shield, you don't get the AP, then your whole backline dies, and then you get the AP later, but then it's too late because your frontline unit that's using this Crown Guarded effect isn't doing like this whole AP scaling damage thing, right? If I think Crown Guard, I'm thinking like Silas, for example. Like you know, imagine Silas, he has his giga health shield. He doesn't lose the health shield before the whole rest of the team dies. Like, you know what I mean? So I really need to see like how it pans out. Like maybe it works out that it's better, but like I don't actually know what this change does. Like, is it just more AP? Is it more shield and AP? I think this means more shield and AP, right? Which in that case, it's like, doesn't that just make it riskier, right? I'm not sure. A long shot needed to get nerfed. I don't care who the fuck says it doesn't need to get nerfed. This was one of the best augments. It was like an insta win if you had snipers. Thank fucking god. I would put it even less than this, right? If you're playing snipers and you have long shot, I feel like this is already really strong. Doesn't it also give a fucking doesn't it also give a sniper's focus? Like, hello? It gives an Orn artifact, it gives AS, and it gives... Like, they should have nerfed it more. Trade sector, whatever. Wrath of the Moon damage increase. I think they mean decrease, right? This Wrath of the Moon getting a nerf for sure, right? Baboom is getting a damage increase? What the fuck? Baboom's already really strong. Okay. This is the part I have quarrels with, right? Where is Keepers? And where is Hero Augments? It's been like 3 patches that these have been like really fucking disgustingly broken. You know what I mean? Like, where is it? Like I showed this last patch review. Like, Midnight Siphon, Long Shot, Wrath of the Moon, Too Healthy, Drop Blossom Plus, Umbral, Sleight of Hand, Keepers, right? Like, these are the big offenders, right? If you have to nerf something, in my opinion. Now, Keepers, it's like when you play Keepers and Duelist, it's so fucking good. This one annoys me the most because it's been like the whole set that everybody's been saying that's really strong and they're still not dealing with it. I don't understand why. It's like, it's so annoying. As you can see, Well-Fed does perform really well when you're playing Vertical Bruisers. This is what I was talking about, like the niche line with Well-Fed Bruisers. Like, I guess it's fine relative to some of the other ones, but like Midnight Siphon should get a small nerf, right? Like, or Midnight Siphon Plus, whichever one this is. Like, why? Like, every time I see this Yorick augment, it's so frustrating because, like, I understand that the stats are skewed, obviously, right? You can see that there's less games played than something like Long Shot. That's how you know Long Shot needs a nerf, because the amount of games that it's played and it being like the highest average, and the same with Wrath of the Moon, these things really matter a lot, right? The problem is with Midnight Siphon is that people usually take it when they have a good Yorick spot, right? But I hate augments. Like, I hate when TFT is balanced in such a way where you start the game and it looks like you can already point out the placements. You can point to some dude and be like, oh, that guy has Midnight Siphon and a Yorick. He's probably going first, right? Or he's probably going top 4. I hate it when TFT is like that. There shouldn't ever, in my opinion, there shouldn't be augments where you can point to somebody and be like, that's a good spot. They just hit an augment that will give them a free win. You know what I mean? Like, those are the ones that suck the most, because it's like, they just hit the augment. It's like, what did they do? They didn't play the game, right? Like, some things are like situational, right? Like, if you see Jeweled Lotus, you don't think to yourself, unless it's like, you know, 3-5, but even, or sorry, 4-2 and they hit Jeweled Lotus. But a lot of times somebody takes Jeweled Lotus, I'm not like, fuck, they won the game. It's like, okay, they got Jeweled Lotus. Do they have like the whole board upgraded and good items to support the Jeweled Lotus and do the damage increase? No? Okay, it's probably fine, right? Like, it makes more sense. But like, seeing somebody with Keepers and then it's like, oh, they're just gonna force Duelist, and then they force Duelist and they get a free top 4. I haven't seen a single person in all my games when they're playing Duelist get bot 4 with Keepers, right? And I know that people do get bot 4 with Keepers because obviously the stats show that people get bot 4 with Keepers, but it's so fucking frustrating to play around. And I don't know why, like, not even like a 10 health decrease to the shield, like nothing. Like, it's it's totally fine. It's been 3 patches and it's still fine. There's no reason to change it whatsoever. I guess the problem is because it's just with Duelist. I think that's why it's hard to balance, right? I don't get it. I don't, you know, but we'll see how it turns out. If this turns into like a reroll / augment patch, I am 100% dipping. Okay, hyper roll, I don't really care about. These are bug fixes. This is the big one. Somebody even in my Discord was talking about it because I was talking about it on stream. But I made a lot of videos about Kindred Baboom. I made those videos before I knew that Baboom was had damage, like it was bugged on Kindred, right? So I just thought it was because Kindred casted really fast. Now they fixed that bug. So those videos I was talking about, I think it's still gonna be working well, right? And the same with Lichbane. Lichbane was also bugged on Kindred. Like, these 2 things that were really good on Kindred apparently were just bugs. There's also this Behemoth bug if you didn't know about it. Behemoth's on death bug. Basically what happened is if Behemoths had allies in between each other, you had to position the Behemoth next to each other, else their Behemoth buffs didn't work properly, right? There's another bug here that I don't want to talk about because I don't want people to abuse it, but they didn't fix it, which is kind of scary. And it involves like some stuff here, but I don't want to mention it. Like in TFT, there's like this weird culture where like, because like patches happen every 2 weeks, if there's like a bug, like you don't want to make it like super public, because even though people know about the bug, it's like the more people that know about the bug, the more people that'll use the bug, and then it just turns into like bug abusing. So like that's the same thing that I felt really bad about with this Kindred one, because like I talked about it a lot, and that's why I made sure to make a point of it, right? Typically with TFT, what you try and do is you avoid bugs. Like for example, like I was saying it with Baboom, right? I didn't know it was bugged, but as soon as I knew it was bugged, it's like you just don't force into the bug, right? Like you don't see Baboom and say, GG, I'm clicking Baboom, I'm forcing Kindred, because that's very bug abusing, right? But if you're playing a game and you're going Kindred Nar reroll, and there's no other clickable augment, right? Like you have Hedge Fund, you have like some other shit, and you have Baboom. Like you have Hedge Fund, Impenetrable Bulwark, and Baboom. What I'm saying is you don't throw away your Elo. You don't say, oh, Baboom's bugged, I can't click, and you click something else. Like that's kind of how TFT works. It's like when there's like a bug like this, as long as it's not like a game breaking bug where like, you know, you're actually like scamming placements, as if it's like something like this that's not as severe, like that's what usually happens, and people like play around it like that. So for me at least, I just tried my best not to click it, and I successfully, like, you know, I had 1 or 2 Kindred games I didn't click Baboom because there was like another option for me to take, right? But now that it's fixed, you can do it, right? But you know, that's kind of the thing, right? So if you know of a bug, that is to say, just like no like moral high ground or anything, but just like, you know, try your best not to like strictly play towards the bug, right? But the thing is, they're nerfing Baboom, but they're nerfing they're fixing the Kindred bug, but then they're buffing the damage on Baboom. What is this damage increase? Hello, is this a fucking meme? Like Syndra's gonna be so fucking good. Like Baboom's gonna be one of those augments where you see it and you're like, oh Jesus Christ, right? Like you know what I mean? Like, I don't get it. I think this patch, I don't like these patch notes. Now, I feel like Duelists got a little bit of a nerf, but I feel like they should have gotten more of a nerf, right? The reason I think Duelists should have got more of a nerf is because they're making it so that reroll Duelist is a thing again, right? This was like the reroll Duelist patch, right? It might make it so that Duelists become really fucking strong if you can roll on 7. Because the biggest problem now was that like you didn't want to roll on 7 because you wanted to play towards Irelia Lee Sin. They didn't nerf keepers, which is really annoying. I hate it when enabling augments exist. They didn't nerf the hero augments, right? They nerfed Kabuko, they nerfed Garen, but they didn't nerf Yorick. Like yet, like what? Like I think it's the best one. I'm pretty sure Yorick, to me, like not stats wise, if you've ever played against Midnight Siphon Yorick 3, it is probably the strongest of all the hero augments, in my opinion. And they still didn't touch it, right? There's lots of other changes they didn't really do, like small unit changes and stuff that I didn't like Kiana, for example, felt really fucking strong for no reason, right? So like, you know, this patch didn't really address any of my concerns, but maybe the meta shakes up and it does address my concerns. You know, I'm not here hating, right? I'm not here like upset. I think the item changes, these were all pretty good, right? But like augments, I still don't understand why keepers isn't getting nerfed. Maybe I'm just too dumb, right? Maybe I'm just wrong and I'm too dumb. But to me, like, you know, I don't get it. And yeah, they did pretty good. I feel like these were the big bugs as well. So I'm really happy that they fixed these 3 in particular, because these 3 are like the biggest bugs that were affecting the last patch. So I'm really happy that they're changed. So, you know, all in all, we'll see how it plays out. I'll probably be playing like mostly this week on Twitch as well, if you guys want to actually see me like try and play like IRL and watch me like bang my mouse sometimes. But other than that, thank you for watching. If you enjoy this content, like I said, subscribe for more, subscribe to Mortdog's channel. And yeah, we'll do more guides this week, hopefully, as per the poll, and we'll hopefully have some more interesting VOD reviews out sometime this week as well. Alright, have fun. See you guys.